Imagine a world where more women have the time to fully explore their genius. Welcome to She Rebel Radio, the UK's podcast for women leaders and founders ready to unlearn conventional rules and lead their businesses of significance. Hailed for counter-status quo ideas and a whole dose of feminine perspective, this is our International Women's Day series, sponsored by our headline partners, NatWest. My name's Lulu Minns. I host retreats and create spaces for women leaders to explore their genius. And today, I'm going to create that same space right here for you on this podcast. Welcome to episode 115 of She Rebel Radio. Embrace influence with Erim Kaur. Erim is the CEO and founder of By Erim, the luxury hair and beard care that has sold more than 70,000 bottles since its launch and brought in 2.5 million. After losing her mother aged just 8 years old, Erin made it her lifelong goal to honour her mother's long and beautiful hair, which she sadly lost during chemotherapy. Erin had the help of her grandmother, who was the keeper of all magical and traditional remedies, where they set to work in her kitchen, resulting in the launch of her luxury brand some 15 years later. Erin cried when she won the Judges' Choice Award for the 100 Female Entrepreneurs to Watch list with NatWest and the Telegraph, and really believes she needs to represent something for young, modern Sikh women. Erin, huge congratulations on the Judges' Choice Award. How did it feel to win and be a huge influence for other young, modern Sikh women who, as you've said, are in the future?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm so humbled after that introduction. You've gassed me up for the entire day. I'm going to be glowing. And second of all, I have always felt that there is such a lack of representation of Sikhs and especially Sikh women in the UK media. I remember reading a census report. I do think it was 2016, so it definitely has changed in the last 12 years, but I think Sikhs represented below 1% of all media.
Wow.
And I think if you want to see a change, you have to be the change. And I think, it's a combination of me working hard and I think also being in the right place at the right time. I know that especially in generally South Asian communities and cultures, we tend to see a lot of emphasis being placed on the youth to become doctors, lawyers, engineers, which I'm sure other cultures can definitely relate to. And for myself, coming from a very Western family, coming from a very entrepreneurial family, it was quite the opposite. I definitely knew that I was always going to be an entrepreneur. And I think being as open and as exposed and vulnerable in that journey, the highs and the lows, has been able to shed a light on a career path that I think not many women had previously considered. When I had the opportunity to win the NatWest Award, well, not the opportunity, I just won, didn't I?
Yeah, good. Go. You go.
More girls are going to see my name. Kaur is a very symbolic middle name meant to be a last name for Sikh women. It represents kind of like the royal heritage that we should carry ourselves with. And I just thought, yes, they're going to see my name, even if they've never heard of me, but they're going to know that there's a brown girl out there who's an entrepreneur, who's doing well.
Amazing. And where were you when you found out that you'd won the Judges' Choice Award?
It was really silly. I was sat exactly as I am right now in my kitchen / dining room / living room / desk.
We've all got one of those.
My everything table. And my PR sent it through to me and it was a formal letter. And I remember just like looking at the PDF being like, oh, this is like something boring from a bank. Like, why am I reading this? And I really put off reading it for like a few days. And she kept on pressuring me, Erim, you need to read it. It's really good. It's really good. And I don't know. I'm not like a finance minded person. So I saw the header of NatWest and I was like, I don't want to read this. Is someone telling me off? Slowly, it kind of dawned on me as I was getting drip fed the information via WhatsApp from my PR that this was something really, really big. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read the letter. And I actually think it was quite life-changing. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And a big spread in the Telegraph as well with a photograph and, a lot of, it was great for the research for this episode in sharing more about you and the business, which was great to see.
Yeah, I'm so excited to chat about it.
Yeah. And as you said, you're in your kitchen now. You've been in the kitchen a number of significant moments. And as in many traditions, grandmothers pass down the keys to remedies and the natural world. We talk about that quite a lot in She Rebel, actually. So what was your experience of that with your grandmother and the traditional remedies that you created together in the kitchen?
Well, so my parents got divorced when I was 2. So I would spend the weekend with my dad and his family. And I just have so many memories. I actually need to go through the archives to find, there's one picture of me sat at the kitchen counter in like a little yellow dress cooking food, but I think that'll be a really good picture
Yeah.
to share, now, because it's the same kitchen actually. They've lived there nearly all my life. And I was just so used to experimenting with cooking with her, and it kind of morphed when my mum passed when I was 8 years old into experimenting with kind of like hair remedies. And it wasn't just hair, we tried like skincare and all sorts of things. And as I grew older, as I grew a little bit more knowledgeable from my, like in the year 9 science classes, I started to think, oh, okay, that one worked. Maybe I should measure it, pretending that my little measuring jug was a beaker, with my little goggles. And when I was 14, we did land upon the final formula, which is now, our famous viral hair oil.
Brilliant. And it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes those things that we do when we were little, when I launched She Rebel Radio, I used to do a little radio show when I was 4 on my own to get away from my sisters sometimes, because I'm the one of 3, being the youngest. And it was only when I started recording for She Rebel in 2019, I was like, oh my God, I used to do this as a child. It's so weird to be, as an adult. So yeah. Can you tell us any more about any of the weird and wacky combinations of oils that you created and how you came to that winning formula? You said you started measuring things out and putting a bit of science behind it as well.
So we experimented with onion juice. We experimented with pressed garlic, yogurt, honey. One of the worst ones was egg. And that's a really, really popular one. But no one tells you not to use hot water to wash it out because you get scrambled egg in your hair, fun fact.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Brilliant.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
I tried it, so you don't have to.
Yeah, I have to say, I was trying a little while ago, actually, apple cider vinegar and bicarb soda. And it didn't go too badly, but it was an experiment, to say the least.
Yeah.
And what's in the winning formula?
So we have 8 pure oils. That's amla, argan, and almond. Then we have castor coconut. And then we have 3 essential oils, all at below 1%, which is the legal maximum. And I'll go into why that's important, being rosemary, lavender, and bergamot. Now, we have a lot of people who are making oils at home, and especially you hear the word essential oil and you think, oh, that's the thing I need to chuck loads into my formula. And it's not that. The essential oil just means like it's a very, very concentrated formula that comes from a plant, whereas you get something like almond, which you can use in higher dosages because it's just safer. It's not as irritating. It's not as concentrated. So I always recommend people, whilst I made my oils at home, if you are going to be experimenting, just either avoid using essential oils or be very, very measured in when you're doing it, or leave it to the professionals, because mine is all made in the lab.
Yeah, they're really strong, aren't they? And I was really intrigued by bergamot in particular, because I'm a big fan of Earl Grey tea, and I'm like, oh, I've never thought of that being in hair oil or products before.
I didn't know bergamot was in Earl Grey tea.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. That's what my mum told me anyway. But I'm a big Earl Grey fan. I think it is. We're gonna have to check that afterwards.
Maybe I'm gonna have to look into a tea rinse for your hair.
I know. What's the benefit in hair of bergamot?
So it essentially helps to release all of the benefits of the other ones.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder if that's what it does in tea, something like that.
It also smells really good. And, I'm sure some of the brown women that are listening to this can relate to me in the sense that, we would go to school with sticky, smelly oils in our hair and you'd feel ostracized, but it was doing the right thing because your parents would tell you it was, but you'd feel like a bit of a silly person whilst doing it. So I wanted to make sure that the oil wasn't just efficacious, but it was also an enjoyable user experience, something that you would feel comfortable wearing out of the house.
Yeah, nice.
Right.
Now, you said By Erim is a business that really created itself. Can you tell us the catalyst to actually starting your business in 2019?
I was just in a series of jobs where I was getting hired, fired, unemployed, employed. And I just wasn't ever good at maintaining corporate role. And throughout that, I was growing my own social media page. So essentially I was working 7 days a week, 4 days a week, I was consulting, 2 days a week, I was working at a nightclub on the door. And then on every Sunday, my very, very kind friend would come to my flat and we would shoot a bunch of content for my Instagram. So at the time, my boss, I remember the one I was working for 4 days a week, said to me, Erim, you can't continue with this whole Instagram posting pictures thing. It's a bubble. Instagram's going to die. You need to have your own business. You need to monetize from this audience. And I was like, Instagram's going to die? So that's when I really started to think, oh gosh, okay, I need to do something that's going to last longer than Instagram. Little did I know it was not going to die. And I started to ideate, and I don't want to compare By Erim or myself to J.K. Rowling, but the phrase that she said, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, it was written.
Yeah.
It wrote itself. Yeah. And one of my favorite phrases as well is the Arabic word maktub, and that also means it is written. And I really felt a very frictionless experience creating By Erim. I had no other name alternatives to By Erim. I didn't really ever consider that it was going to be anything other than the launch with a hair oil. My logo came to me within an hour, and it all just kind of started to fall into place. Any moments of friction, I remember I really struggled finding a sticker supply that was sustainable because I was looking for water-soluble paper stickers for my bottle. And I remember just asking someone, and he was able to source that for me probably within half an hour. So it really kind of all came to fruition really naturally.
Yeah. So it's really, it's that kind of purpose, isn't it? That's kind of threaded through everything and just unfolds without effort, which is really beautiful to hear. I believe you filmed your first piece of content, as you said, you were building a platform without a product at first in a small room at university. I don't know if that's right, but how has your content that you create now evolved?
Oh my God, you've done your research.
Yeah, I'm known for my research.
That's so good. Well, yeah, so I was working at nightclubs since I was 18 throughout university. So, throughout the week and on the weekends, I was getting really, really dressed up. And, as you are when you're 18 years old, I was dressed up. I was ready to go to work, and I would get my roommates or my flatmates to take a photo of me. And I think at the time where I had the opportunity to create content so regularly, and where I was probably one of the few brown women that was posting in the way that I was and so regularly, I think that really, I leveraged kind of first mover advantage. I leveraged being one of the only women to look like me on that page, on that platform, sorry. So now, I mean, I don't think it's changed much. I'm just shooting it in my little flat. So I guess I went from a room to a flat. So we've leveled up in the last 7 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, how long have you, and was Instagram your platform of choice, as it were, initially? And you use TikTok now as well.
I do. So I first got on Instagram when I was 18, but I used it very much as any average person would, taking photos of my avocado toast, like nights out with my girlfriends. Only when I graduated at the age of 21, and I actually wore an outfit that I designed myself, which was traditional Punjabi style, to my graduation, and I went viral, funnily enough, on Twitter, of all platforms. And I started to realize, okay, there's a lot of girls out there that kind of relate to me and my message, and looking to find other girls that grew up without a mum and the experience of not having sisters. And it really started to snowball from there. I've forgotten your question. I'm speaking and I'm so into my own story that I've forgotten what you asked me. Where am I going?
No, it's interesting. It's so interesting. Just about how, the platforms that you were using in terms of your social media and how that's really evolved to your brand now, By Erim.
I mean, it's a funny thing because, when you first start social media, you're very much like just posting and having fun with it and experimenting. And when you start to gain traction is when you start to work out what's really working. And I've always had the mentality, like, share 10% of your life and ferociously guard that 90%, which you don't. But that 10% that you show, vulnerably expose that entire 10%. So I think what I chose to show, people felt close to me through that 10%, be it my struggles with the business, be it, the behind the scenes of being an influencer, which I was very much known for in the infancy of Instagram, which was very a curated, forced. I mean, you remember the Instagram makeup look of, I guess, 2017 era, where it was just like infinite amounts, copious amounts of contour and stuff. It was a very forced image. And I tried to break away from that and be a bit more natural, a bit more raw, a bit more honest, as I'm sure many other creators were. When you start to gain followers, you start to see what's working. And, when you gain even more followers, you start to see who doesn't like you and who doesn't want you to succeed. So that's something that I kind of entered the world of success and almost equal amounts trolling, very, very unaware. And that's something that I would definitely warn all of the listeners, like the second that you start to do well and people start to see that you're doing well, you need to expect people to not be happy with that.
Yeah.
No, I thought we'd be a love fest forever, but yeah, I'm sure you might have experienced it too, Lulu.
Yeah, absolutely. I use LinkedIn quite a bit, and because I talk about women and women in business, there can be some kickback from guys like, why are you just talking about women, etc. But it's really important to keep an eye out for it. And I love how you've shared there in terms of share that 10%, but share it well and share it deeply, but keep a large chunk for yourself. It's a really, really important tip. Now, you said also initially you didn't feel you were taken serious, or you weren't taken seriously by manufacturers when you began the business. What was your experience of that, and how did you change it?
So my voice, I kind of sound a bit young. Like, I don't know, the listeners, you guys can judge for yourselves. I sound like I'm constantly reading from a script, is what I've been told. And I'm never doing that. And I also sound kind of young. So when I was on the phone to these different manufacturers, obviously I was using my savings as my initial investment. I self-funded my business. So I had a small, order quantity that I wanted. It was in fact 250 units, which I kind of had to really gear myself up to order 250. That seemed like a lot. And, as I'm calling and I'm this like young girl and I'm trying to explain my story that I'm an influencer and blah, 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 I was starting to realize that often whoever the business development manager at these factories was a man, and they were probably older, and they were probably not very well versed in the world of influencer marketing. So I sounded, just in their eyes, what I think, a bit silly. It was really frustrating because I understood the power of influencer marketing. I actually experimented. I'll tell you a funny story. Someone I knew had a bunch of eyebrow wax kind of treatments formulated, and it was just a lot of dead stock that just didn't sell. So I listed them all on eBay and I started promoting it on my page. And I'm sure someone's going to tell me off for being naughty, but I sold all of them out. And that's when I realized, because as an influencer, until you have your own brand, you don't actually know the power of the numbers that you're able to sell, unless you're doing commission. So I realized I actually maybe could sell. I realized influencer marketing really is a thing from that particular experience. So trying to convince these people that we're really in charge of dealing with the oldest form of business, which is, bringing a product and manufacturing it and, all those old school things, to the newest form of marketing, influencer marketing, it just wasn't meshing. I remember asking, my dad is a very, very assertive alpha, just man's man. And I said to him, Dad, please call this guy up in Scotland for me, because he's not taking me seriously and he's the only one that will meet my minimum order whatever it's called, order quantity. And he was like, no, I'm not doing it. I don't know what you're doing. I don't want to get involved. If I get involved, everyone's going to say it was me that done it for you from the start. And I remember I just felt like, I was 24 at the time, I felt like stomping my feet and shouting at him, because I was like, how can you leave me high and dry like this? You're my dad. You're my own parent. He's always been there for me. And, I know it sounds predictable and cliche, but I am glad that he did that, because one of the biggest critiques I get from my beloved trolls is that, daddy's money, daddy's business, blah, blah, blah. And I actually have, anecdotal evidence that it's not. So,
yeah, good for you. And there's evidence that, the deeper our voice, etc., the more authority that we have, in the world of business, and it being started by men. And I love that you shared there, it's kind of the old world of product-based business, bringing it to the new world of marketing and influence, and being an influencer, and the barriers that you came up against in trying to do that. So how did you get that first order in? What was the shift?
I really, really just didn't accept that he was kind of not understanding me. And I actually came from a perspective of, okay, it's not that he hates me, it's not that he doesn't respect influencers, it's that he doesn't know. And I think education will always turn hearts faster than shouting, or whatever the alternative to that is. So I educated him essentially about what influencer marketing was, and I kind of gave him some of the numbers of my page and what I was expecting. And I kind of sold him a love story that ended up happening. But, I said I had at the time, I believe, around 170K. And, I fed him the numbers, and I kind of convinced him to believe in me and believe in the fact that my next order will be a lot bigger. And, thankfully, with God's blessing, the first drop I had, 250 units, sold out in 4 hours. I went back to him, asked for double the quantity, 500, and I sold out in half the time, 2 hours.
Brilliant. Amazing. And the 170K, is that followers that you had at the time?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, amazing. So let's talk a little bit more about the products, which is far more than just hair oil. I've had my own hair journey this year, bringing back more of my natural wave, although it's looking quite fluffy today, has to be said. And you've been right on the money, as it were, in terms of much more interest in natural products as well at the moment. So tell us more about your products and how we can use them.
Well, first of all, I love the fact that you're embracing your natural hair texture. I think it's just such a moment for women to go to whether it's straight or curly or coily. It's so empowering. Now, my products are all 100% naturally derived, and I don't want what I'm saying, to sound like an infomercial. I always speak about them, and I'm so used to speaking it, but the root of By Erim and our key values are really marrying heritage, culture with transparency and with empowerment. And the heritage very much comes from, even the ingredients being Ayurvedic. In my advertising, you can really clearly see my gara, which is one of the 5 Ks of Sikhi, representing your union with God. I've made sure that you can see that, when I'm holding my products in the homepage of my website, etc. Transparency coming through, seeing my story, seeing the journey I've had with it, involving my customers, who I really do refer to. Right now I have 500,000 followers. I believe I have 500,000 stakeholders in my business. I really want to consult with them. And that's not to say that it's completely customer led. I don't think that that's ever the wisest choice, given the fact that what a customer might want might not be healthy, might not be appropriate, might not be available. But majority of the time, when it comes to certain things to do with branding or packaging, I love receiving that input and working on it. And then finally, marrying that with the empowerment side of things. A lot of men are now starting to look into their grooming, and especially Sikh men having long beards if they are choosing to keep it. I want them to be able to feel empowered to have healthy hair that, is looking good, and they're feeling confident and comfortable throughout the day wearing their beard oil.
Yeah, amazing. And thank you for sharing with us how you threaded your values through what it is that you do, listening to your customers, making them, a big part of the business. And also, when I was doing my research, you've got on your website, in terms of our hair types, and more understanding around that. And I know, since I've had my journey with my hair this year and embracing that natural wave more, that it's so much less knotty. I can actually get a brush through it much easier than I could before, and trying to make it do what it doesn't want to do.
And you know what that means is that you're repairing the hair cuticle because it's more moisturized. So it's not going to have that damage, which makes it more knotty because it's more bumpy. It's smoother. So the hair is now falling kind of in the right place.
Ah, that's good to know. That's good to know. And what products have you got?
So we have 6 products. We have, of course, our iconic hair and beard oil. We've got that in 2 sizes. We've got a shampoo, a conditioner, and we really innovated with that formula, by the way. To anyone listening, I dare you to go to Boots and Superdrug right now and try and find me a 100% naturally derived shampoo and conditioner. We took 1.5 years making that, by the way, which was very, 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 very painstaking.
Yeah, and Erim, I'll back you on that, because I've been looking for that. As I said, I wish I'd found you before, and then I found you when I'm doing business.
I'll send you some.
Thank you, please do.
We have a hairbrush and we have a hair wrap. Now, these I'm in love with because as women, I think we look at hair care and we approach it from the perspective of the product, the serum, the shampoo. And whilst those are vital, those are normally washout. Those in between moments of our hair care that we don't think about, chucking a bath towel on your head when you've come out of the shower, or raking a 5-year-old hairbrush through your hair, that's probably doing more damage than the shampoo that doesn't suit you. These are both super gentle. You can look at all of the stuff on the website. I'm starting to sound like I'm on QVC, aren't I?
That's okay. I think I was going to ask you, as I said, it's been an area of interest for me this year as well. And silk pillows, do they work as well? I've heard about your pillowcase matters.
Yeah, so we have a silk hair wrap, and I'll speak on that. Ours is vegan silk. By the way, to your listeners, I'm studying trichology, which is the study of the hair and the scalp. That's why I'm very kind of technical when it comes to these types of things. I'm super ingrained into the world of the science of hair and scalp. But silk is really good. It's antibacterial, it's antifungal, and it's able to give you that slip. And often, like I said, it's that friction when you're brushing your hair, when you're putting it up into a ponytail, that can cause the breakage. Now, a lot of people think that it's hair loss, but it might not always be hair loss from the roots. Sometimes it's simply hair breakage. I'm sure you've heard of a bleach cut.
No, I don't think I have heard of a bleach cut. Is that where if you're bleaching your hair, it causes damage?
Yeah. And if you bleach your hair so much, it just breaks. So it's kind of like you're getting a free haircut when you bleach your hair too much. And it feels like your hair's falling out, but it's not. It's just that your hair's like super dry, super damaged. And that's where those things like silk come in, is really handy.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, all the chemicals that are put in stuff
Mm.
takes a while to reverse it, doesn't it?
Mm.
Amazing. Yeah, just really good to hear everything that you're creating. Now, we talked about your platforms, including TikTok, which I have to say I'm a bit scared of. But what are your top tips to embrace our influence as women and women in business?
So I think out of all the platforms, Lulu, TikTok is the one you should be least scared of. The reason for that is the algorithm is aligned to really, really help you knuckle down on your niche, whether it's as a viewer or as a creator. There is a niche, there is a community for every single thing that could possibly exist. A toxic community is called TikToxic. The fragrance community is called Frag Talk. There is absolutely everything out there. So no matter what your brand is, your personal mission is, or your products are, there's going to be a customer for you. And the TikTok algorithm is designed to help you find that customer. I sound like a TikTok ambassador. I'm not. I wish I was getting paid to get people to join TikTok. But I really, really have found that the audience on TikTok is a lot harsher. So really leverage the tools that they have in terms of comment restrictions and blocking and reporting and hiding certain words. But in terms of my tips, I would say go for it. If you're passionate about something and you've got a voice and you've got loads of things scripted and waiting there, there's 8 billion people on this earth. I bet you someone else has. And it's just a race of whoever's going to be brave enough to do it first. So you might as well be it. Number 2, I would say throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Recently I created a video, which was an audio. It's going to be a bit confusing to describe, but for brown girls as an excuse if their boyfriend gets them roses. They're trying to hide it from their parents. I made an audio as like, hey, I'm your girlfriend and I gave you roses. And I thought nothing of it, Lulu. And I've checked my phone. It's been 48 hours and it's got 1 million views. So you don't know. You don't know what's going to work. And I gained a couple hundred followers from that, which was, an amazing bonus. So be brave enough to try whatever you possibly can. Be super authentic. Don't wait and rehearse and delete clips until you drive yourself insane. Like, just film it. And if you trip over a word, it's fine. People who are watching trip over their words all the time. Like, people are a lot more forgiving and a lot more understanding than we give them credit for.
Yeah, it's makes us a lot more relatable as well.
So true.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to ask you on that, because before we hit record, it's always interesting what conversations we have. Influence as women and women in business. Do we like Boss Babe or do we not?
I'm so glad that we started speaking about this, because the answer is no. I do not know why we gendered that particular word, other than a natural bias to assume that a boss is a man. And in order to differentiate and express that it's a woman, we need to say boss babe or boss lady. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I said it to you before. No one's called my dad a boss bro or a boss dude before.
No, I know. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of takes the seriousness out of what it is that we do and who it is that we are. And every woman that I speak to on She Rebel Radio and women that I support, and I do retreats and things like that, there's a great intelligence to what women are bringing into the business world, and I think it just totally undermines that.
Yeah, I think it kind of brings about connotations of like a woman with a Starbucks cup and an Apple laptop, and it's just like, you can have those things, but it kind of puts one stereotype onto what a female or onto what a boss is. And you have so many different versions of women who are running their own companies that don't all look the same or dress the same or have the same preference in coffee houses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's putting us all under one umbrella. I agree. Now, what 3 things are you going to be embracing this year? It's International Women's Day and the theme is embracing equity. So we're talking to all our guests about what they're going to be embracing as they move into this year.
So from a business perspective, I'm going to be embracing men's self-care. I think that if we as women can maybe express that it's something preferable or good or encouraging them, I think we can share those beautiful moments that we all have in the bathroom in the morning, that 10 minutes to ourselves. That shouldn't be restricted to who you are, how you identify. So I really want to encourage that as a movement, in particular within the South Asian community. As a person, as you know, personally, I'll be looking to embrace authenticity. I think being an influencer and being a public figure, it's really easy for me to fall into the brand of Erim. And sometimes I can get lost in the brand of Erim. And I really want to bring myself back to that young girl who loved reading, who was really shy, who, you know, I don't know, whose favorite color is pink, whatever it may be. I really want to bring myself back to her. And I would say on a spiritual level, I'm looking to embrace Sikhi into my daily life a little bit more in terms of my education of that, outside of what I've been told by my parents and my grandparents.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, having your own journey with that. Yeah, where can we find you? What platforms?
That's it. So my name is Erim. That's Erim, M for mother. And you can find me on all platforms with just Erim, TikTok and Instagram, really. Come and chat to me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Erim. It's been amazing to have you for International Women's Day.
Thank you.
You've been listening to She Rebel Radio. We thank you for listening and thank our headline partners NatWest for sponsoring this series. If this episode has inspired you, please pass it on and share with at least one other incredible woman. And don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review. You can find out more about me and my work at luluminns.com or on most social media platforms.